Hello dear viewer, I'm going to need to see your pass. Hall Monitor Murdoch X here, and today we're going to talk about my collection update for January of 2019. First up, we have a new controller. Some of my controllers are starting to go bad. I've got one where the left analog stick kind of wanders, and I've got one where the circle button is going out and like you really have to hammer it to get it to register. So I don't know, maybe I should take those two controllers apart and start moving things around. I've never taken apart a controller before, but I don't know, it seems doable. Either way, I needed a new controller, so here it is, translucent, blue. I like it. It'll kind of match some of the extension cords I have. The ones I have are kind of translucent. I think I have a blue, a red, and a green one, so this will work with that. It's going to be a stylish system by the end of this. And a last minute addition is another controller. I found this at a half-price books recently for a reasonable price. It's the Pelican Controller. The sticks are in like different positions. You can see how they're kind of like down lower there, like it's kind of weird, and the controller's kind of small, but it seems like it's really sturdily built. I don't know, it's probably okay. Haven't used it yet. I'm sure it'll be fine. If not, I got the regular controllers, and I love the regular PS2 controllers, so it's gonna be okay. That blue controller I picked up at the local video game store here in Austin, Game Over Video Games, and on that same trip, I found one of the PS2 stands, and I recently picked up a fat PS2 because Tide the Tasmanian Tiger 3 will only work in the fat systems for some reason. I ended up buying 2 copies before I figured that out, but I now have a stand, another cool edition, $5. I don't know. I think it's an okay price. Time will tell. While digging around the store, I also found the online startup disc, version 3.0. And there's a few things in here. Haven't really dug through it too much. Okay, so there's a couple things in here. There's the disc and the manual. One of the games I would have been able to play online with the network adapter and the hard drive would have been Final Fantasy XI, but in March 2016 they finally shut down the PlayStation 2 servers, so missed that one by a few years, or 2.5 years I guess? I don't know. Almost could have done this right, they shut this down right before I started collecting PS2 games. I think that's about the right time. I don't know. Now, had I been able to play Final Fantasy XI on my PlayStation 2, there were also 4 expansion packs that were released, including Chains of Promathia, which I recently also picked up. That means I need 3 more to go, and I'll have the entire Final Fantasy XI set, and it makes me so sad that I'll never be able to play these. I did play a little bit of Final Fantasy XI, but I played on the PC, not the PlayStation 2. Although we did have one guy in our group that played on the PlayStation 2, he seemed to enjoy it. And since we have a network adapter theme kind of going on right now, why not? Let's throw this in here. I also recently picked up SOCOM U.S. Navy SEALs, the edition that came with the network adapter and the headset. I'm going to open this up and I'm going to show you this gross headset that's in here. It's a little bit beat up. Look at that. That's gross. Yeah, it's in pretty gnarly condition, but it's there. This thing's so gross. And there's bits of the ear protection thing that used to be on there. There's bits of it all inside this box. Look at that. You can see parts of it there. Yeah, that fell all apart. Gross. So part of the reason I started making these videos is because it forced me to start playing the PlayStation 2 games I was buying. So here's the thing, if you played a different PlayStation 2 game every day, one a day, without any repeats, it would take you almost 5 years to play them all. So I have decided to start skipping some of the games, specifically the sports games where they released one a year. And so here's the ones I'm going to be skipping in this update. I'll wait for you, buddy. I've been doing this for like a week and a half, but you know, eventually it'll get done. I don't care. So here are some games where I believe I've already sampled the series, and I'll be skipping these specific titles. I got Madden 2002, picked up Madden 09, NBA Live 2001. This copy looks like it was sitting in the window of a game store. It's got a little bit blue from maybe some light damage. NBA Live 2002, and finally NHL 2003. There are a couple of sports games that I did try out this month, as I've never sampled anything in this series, and the first of those is one of the NHL games. 2002 specifically. This was more fun than I was expecting, though I never did get a good grasp of the controls. This reminds me of some soccer games that I've played in the past where you hold down the shoot button to build power and then release. Good game, I might come back and play this more sometime. Another sports series that I hadn't jumped into before is Tiger Woods' PGA Tour. I thought these were standard golf games and I was looking forward to playing one, but when I tried Tiger Woods' PGA Tour 08, it was kind of a letdown. Instead of a timed power meter, you use the left analog stick to swing. I didn't like it. I guess this does give more control, sort of, but it felt sloppy. Maybe I need to put more time into this game to master it, or maybe that controller with a bad left analog stick was messing me up, but I don't think that's it. I'd rather play Disney Golf or Ribbit King over this game. So there are some disappointing games in the stack this month, but I don't want to get all mopey about it. I collect for the PS2 because there is a lot of fun to be had, even in a lot of the bad games. So before I get back to the credit games, let's talk about one of the good ones, Tony Hawk's Underground 2. Well, you know, before they became a joke. I still haven't played Tony Hawk 5, but we're here to talk about this wonderful PS2 title and not the crap that came later.
World Destruction Tour! Around the world sick as hell skating competition that Tony and I threw together and you Jagoffs are gonna compete in.
This was released when Bam Margera was at the top of his game and making the rounds on television with Viva La Bam. Say what you want about Bam Margera, but he got Cradle of Filth on American television and that counts for something, damn it. Okay, back to the game. I love these open world Tony Hawk games. There's a lot to get through in the first stage, which is sort of a tutorial before it will let you loose and into the other areas. It's a little bit frustrating, but there's a lot of content here. I only played for about an hour and a half and I focused on raising my stats and getting out of the tutorial area, but I loved it. I have so many games that I tend to delete most of my save files fairly frequently, but this save file will be sticking around. Okay, back to bad games. The next bad game is Cue Ball Billiards Master. The game itself isn't horrible, but this opening scene makes me cringe. Look at this. This pool guy and a random hired model have what is supposed to be a cool cue passing thing. So back to the game. They brag about the physics engine on the game case, but it's nothing special. It's okay, and if you like virtual pool games, this one is adequate, but the music is a weird ambient thing and the pool hall setting is also strange. The only thing in this game that is above average is this nice in graphic. You know, I don't want to talk about this dumb game anymore. So let's talk about this dumb game instead. Fur Fighters Viggo's Revenge. It's a crappy looking shooter title that would have been okay except the controls suck. What's worse than the controls being terrible is that the instruction manual explains how to change the settings, but the instruction manual is wrong. The ability to change the controls was never implemented, or it was removed later perhaps. This game could have been good, but it was clearly a rushed hack job. There are other parts that feel unfinished, and a lot of the missions are confusing. There is this sweet reflective pool though. You know what? I'm just going to save all the good games for the end. Next on the list is Namco Museum. I was looking forward to playing this. I love Pac-Man and I thought it would be nice to get some practice in at home before trying to get a high score on the next arcade cabinet I ran into. Of course, the first thing I did to make sure this was an accurate port of the arcade was to run into the safe spot. If you're not familiar with this, there is a spot in this stage where ghosts will never go. You can stick Pac-Man there and walk away from the arcade cabinet and take a bathroom break, but the ghosts in this game, they got me while I was hanging out there. I poked around in this title a little bit more, but this game is a huge disappointment. Other people must have noticed that this was a crappy port of these games as well, because this title was re-released later as a Greatest Hits edition titled 50th Anniversary Edition, and they used the actual arcade ROMs on that version. I look forward to finding that title sometime and never touching this abomination again. Okay, the last disappointing game before we get into the good stuff. Aqua Aqua. Right before I decided to collect PS2 games, I bought this game because Metal Jesus recommended it. If you don't know who that is, look him up on YouTube sometime. He has great content. He said this game was a good game. He said it was a hidden gem. Well, Mr. Jesus, I disagree. I think this could have been a fun game, but the controls are imprecise. It's sort of like playing Tetris, but if you had to use a roller ball to control the game. I'm not even talking about the analog stick. The D-pad is unpredictable. Press up and it goes this way. Press down and it doesn't go the opposite way. This game is a bad game and I was grumpy about buying it again. Hell, this may be the same copy that I sold back to the game store when I got rid of it before. On that note, the same thing happened with Suikoden 4. I bought it, saw it mostly took place on a water overworld map, and sold the game back to the game store. Later on, I had to rebuy it, and I was pretty upset about it. Anyways, Aqua Aqua is a puzzle game where you have blocks that drop and raise the ground below them. You then place water on the stage that isn't allowed to drip off the edges or you lose. Even if the controls did work, I doubt that I would enjoy this game. Sorry, Metal Jesus, this is a hidden poop, not a gem. Now let's ease into the games that weren't horrible with Dora Saves the Crystal Kingdom. This is a children's game, but it's not a crappy cash grab like the Strawberry Shortcake game. It's not a game for adults, and I'll never play it again, but for being a game for young children, I think it does exactly what it sets out to do. It teaches the game's controls and goals slowly with plenty of help and repetition to make sure a child is able to grasp them. The graphics are nice, the music is nice, and the voice work is top-notch. This is one of the best kid games that I've ever run into. Next up is Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3. I'm not usually into fighting games, but this one is cool. It's also fairly valuable, and I found it for $20 less than it normally sells for. Judging by the sticker on the game, it was only at the store I bought it from for 6 days before I snagged it. This was a lucky find. This was also where I grabbed all of those other $1 sports titles from. I didn't play a whole lot of this, but it does look like it's loaded with content. I may come back to this sometime. I love unlocking content. Now here is a game that I have been avoiding for a long time, and it ended up being a surprise. Puzzle Quest. It's a stupid match 3 game like Candy Crush, but with spells. There's a world map, you get quests, and you can upgrade your skills. I want to say that match 3 games are always dumb, but this is kind of awesome. I mean, it's still dumb, but awesome dumb? I don't know. It's hard to say this is a good game, but I want to play more of it, for scientific purposes, of course. Next up is Shadow Hearts Covenant, the second Shadow Hearts game of 3 released on the PlayStation 2. It's a little bit jarring starting in the middle of this series as the story references things from the first game which I've never played. Despite being a turn-based RPG, there is an action element in the battles with the Judgment Ring. When attacking, this ring pops up and you have to hit the button in the highlighted areas, bonus for hitting the red spot at the end. Luckily for me, my television was updated a while back, and now there's less lag when playing retro systems because this would have been a mess. There was another game that had a system like this that I was unable to play because of the lag problem. I don't know. This game looks good. It's a dark JRPG that has 3 titles in the series, all of which are on the PS2 and available here in North America. Interesting note, the first game in the series is the most valuable one and is currently selling for around $55. Usually the final game in the series is the more valuable one, kind of like the Dragon Ball game mentioned earlier, for example. Another RPG added to the collection this month is Grandia Xtreme, another title in the awkward shift to make RPGs 3-dimensional. This game seems like it's alright. The voices are a little bit awkward sometimes, but the story seems nice, the music is good, and the controls work as intended. I know these aren't shining compliments, but this is a middle-of-the-road JRPG as far as I can tell. I'm sure the storyline is what makes or breaks this game for most people, and I didn't put in enough time to have an opinion on that aspect. I do hope to have time to jump into some of the RPGs eventually, but I suspect Final Fantasy XII or Dark Cloud 2 will be the first ones that I get into.
Yeah, you'd better not get me mad. It may cause me to throw my aim off. Huh?
Final game added to the collection this month is Arctic Thunder. This game is kind of dumb and broken, but it's lots of fun. One thing that the PlayStation 2 lacks is good kart racer games. There are quite a few out there, but most of them are terrible. The SpongeBob one, the Cartoon Network one, and the Star Wars ones are bad games, but somehow this snow sledding game is kind of good. It does have its problems, mind you. There were several times where there's so much crud on the screen that I couldn't tell what was happening, but despite that, I had a lot of fun. I wish this game had multi-tap support though. As it stands, it only goes up to 2 players, but I'm telling you, grab this game, pick the Yeti, and shoot missiles at your enemies. It's a blast, and I'm happy that I found this game. This is why I collect for the PS2. There are so many fun titles out there that I still haven't had the chance to play. With 22 new games added to the collection, this brings my total up to 577 out of 1,796 for a total of 32.1% of a complete collection. This is getting very difficult to track, and I think I forgot to count some of my special edition games last month, and on top of all of that, my list of total games has shrunk. I was using 1,810 before, but with the help of a guy who found my channel, I've trimmed my list down to 1,796. I had a few pieces of hardware and some games that weren't released here in North America on my old list. I also removed Madden 08 and Espanol as the gameplay is identical to the English version. I did leave in several variants where the gameplay has been altered as I consider them separate games, like Need for Speed Most Wanted Black Edition, which includes new tracks and vehicles not available in Need for Speed Most Wanted. This guy I mentioned earlier, he has a great game list and he tracks all of the variants he can find, and I'm using his list to check my information. I'm also trying to post variants that I find on PlayStation Age's forums so that they can be documented. After I get all 1,796 games that I'm after, I'll probably start going for variants and possibly start collecting for another console, maybe PS3, I don't know. It's too early to say, but it's kind of fun that collecting for PS2 is still kind of a Wild West situation. There's a lot we still don't know, and my count may still be wrong. If you would like to look at my list, I have it on my stupid GeoCities website that I set up when I was making a video about Tamagotchi, a weird 90s goth game. I also have a list of known SOCOM U.S. numbers there from an old website that no longer exists. If that's not your jam, it's totally cool. I'm down to obsessively track all this information for the good of humanity. Thanks for watching. So eventually I'm going to make that 1/3 mark, the 33% line, and I think I actually have, but I don't count the game until I played it, because you can see behind me here, this tall stack right there, those are the games that I haven't played yet. That's part of the games that I'm covering now that need to go on the shelves, but this stack hasn't gone through, and I'm pretty sure that if you added those to my collection, that would put me over the 1/3 mark, but dang it, I need to play them. It doesn't count until then, so hopefully next update will be that, will be the one. So in order to get to that 1/3 mark, I'm going to have to play 17 or 18 more games, and I think I can do that. There's definitely enough in that stack. I'm looking at it in this video camera right now. I can do it. There's some good games in there. I got Fatal Frame 2 in there. I haven't played that yet. Looking forward to that one. I'm not usually into horror games, but that one kind of works for me. I don't know. So that's it for the video. Now get back to class. I'd like to take a moment here to tell you that your hall pass is clearly a forgery. Reaching around the microphone. It should have gone over.